Now, this particular router is actually fantastic value, at least on the surface of things. There is one feature that is missing that you may be expecting, so just be aware of this. Hey folks, so today I'm reviewing the Archer BE230 Router from TP-Link, and for the benefit of my American friends, yes, we British do say router, not router. So the first feature that's going to grab your attention is probably the fact that this budget router here has Wi-Fi 7. Now, this is the latest consumer grade Wi-Fi that everybody's trying to get their hands on, and you will need compatible Wi-Fi 7 devices in order to actually make use of it, but the router itself is backwards compatible, so if you just want to future-proof your network, then this may very well be a budget way of doing so. And also surprising for the price point is the fact that there are 4 individual LAN ports, a dedicated WAN port or internet port, which supports up to 2.5 gigabit bandwidth, and also one of those 4 LAN ports supports 2.5 gigabit too. The other 3 support up to 1 gigabit. And in terms of the software, there's a lot of functionality here. One of my favourite things though is the ability to set this router up as a VPN client, which I'll explain a little bit more of later on. And it also has a USB 3.0 port so that you can connect a storage drive as a way of quickly moving files across your network. But all of this begs the question, how have TP-Link got a Wi-Fi 7 enabled router with 2.5 gigabit LAN ports at this price point? Well, this is where the downside comes into play. When most people think of Wi-Fi 7, they automatically, I think, a lot of the time assume 6 gigahertz bandwidth. Unfortunately, this router doesn't have 6 gigahertz bandwidth as it's only a dual band router. This is really, I think, where TP-Link have managed to bring the cost down. Wi-Fi 7 doesn't require the 6 gigahertz band. Wi-Fi 6E requires it, but Wi-Fi 7 does not. In fact, Wi-Fi 7 is not band dependent. It can work across all of the different bandwidth, and that includes 2.4 and 5 gigahertz bandwidths as well. What Wi-Fi 7 does require is the ability to have MLO or multi-link operation. This will increase the throughput and the efficiency of the connection when you have multiple devices connected to the network. So even though this is not a tri-band router or supports 6 gigahertz bandwidth, it is still a fantastic way of getting Wi-Fi 7 on the cheap. Now, it does allow you to have guest networks. It does allow you to have IoT networks for your smart devices. Right, so let's open the box up, see what we get. And starting off, we get the main router itself, along with the AC power cord, a bunch of documentation, and a single network cable. So pretty basic package, but at least it's got everything you need to get started here. So now let's go ahead, get this thing set up, shall we? Okay, so what I've done is plugged it into power, got it turned on, there's an on-off switch on the back, waited about 5 minutes, and I've got 3 solid LED lights here all lit up. So I'm plugging this into the blue LAN port, which is labelled internet. That's effectively the WAN port. And again, I'm just going to wait a moment. Got a red LED just here, so I'll let that settle before I go any further. In fact, it's just gone to a solid white LED. That took about 3 seconds after plugging this cable in here. Before I do anything, I'm just going to actually connect to the Wi-Fi of this router and see if I actually have an internet signal without any additional setup at all. All I've literally done is plugged it in. Okay, so I've just connected to the default 5 gigahertz network. Okay, the credentials for which are on the bottom of the router, since that is the default login. I haven't changed it yet. I haven't even signed in to the interface or downloaded the app or anything. I've just connected to that Wi-Fi, and let's see if I've got any kind of connection here. I'll be surprised if I do. Well, what do you know? I've got a connection straight away without any setup. So this really is a plug and play router. If you're not into the technical side of things, you don't need to worry. Get this plugged in and it should work. It has for me. Now that may depend on your internet service. Okay, depending on what connection you have, you may need to do a little bit of setup. So I've turned my computer on, gone to the 192.168.0.1 web address. That will take me to the login for the router. And there I can just set a password, which I did. And the first important screen here is to customize the wireless settings. I can actually combine both of the network SSIDs, which is the names that show up on your devices for the networks you want to connect to. I can combine them together for both bandwidths. And that's something I am going to do because it just makes things a lot more convenient. And then the router itself will determine whether a device needs to use the 2.4 gigahertz or the 5 gigahertz bandwidths. We can make sure that firmware updates are going to happen automatically. And over here, you can see that we have the clients that have been connected right now, just this laptop. But obviously, any clients that are connected to your home network, including smart devices such as cameras, are going to show up here in this list. Now, in the main network settings, if you scroll down from the network you've just set up, you can see you now have the option of also enabling the MLO network, or the multi-link operating network. And this is how you are going to use Wi-Fi 7 for devices that support that technology. This will create a second network, a second wireless SSID, and you can use your Wi-Fi 7 devices to connect to it directly in order to get that improved throughput and better efficiency. You have to understand that if your devices do not have Wi-Fi 7, they won't be able to use that network. But if they do, then that's how you can make the most of the Wi-Fi 7 that's included with this product. And all you need to do is select enabled, and it will give you the default network name and password, which will be the same as the one that's on the router, except it will have MLO at the end of the name. The router does give you access to a guest network if you want to have your guests or visitors on a separate network where they can't access your main devices. And you can also enable a dedicated IoT network. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a dedicated network for your smart devices, such as your cameras, your doorbells, your smart lamps, or whatever else you use in your home. Yes, they can still connect to the main network if you prefer, but if you want to keep all of that separate to your PCs and phones and laptops and tablets, then I definitely recommend enabling that and using that to connect your smart devices. But something I really like about TP-Link's routers, even their budget models such as this one, is that they support both VPN server and VPN clients as well. So you can set this up as a server. That means you will be able to access your full home network on devices that are not part of the actual local network. So if you are away from home, for example. But something that I really like as well is being able to set this up as a VPN client. So for example, you can install Surfshark or another VPN directly onto the router, so that all traffic that goes to the router, any devices connected to it, will be going through that VPN traffic. And folks, I've got to say that overall, I am super impressed with the BE230. I'm going to mention as well, I did purchase this, okay? I bought it myself, so this video has not been sponsored. But for the price point, okay, I know I keep harping on about that, this thing has a lot of features packed into it. And I've got to say, they're not just gimmicky features either. They are features that I think are going to be getting a lot of use from people. For me personally, as one example, I wouldn't even consider buying a router these days if it didn't allow me to have a separate network for my smart devices, and yet so many budget routers are still not giving that option. I'm so happy that this TP-Link one does. The fact this isn't a tri-band router is a little bit disappointing. Am I really going to miss that 6 GHz bandwidth though? Probably not, if I'm honest, especially because I'm not in the most congested environment. But folks, there are my thoughts on the Archer BE230 from TP-Link. I think a cracking router, great bit of kit from TP-Link at this price point as well. I hope the video's been helpful to you, and I'll see you next time.